The conscious choice was to let him know that even with these bigger, more challenging emotions that he was expressing to me or showing me in a way, I wasn't going to abandon him. I wasn't going to leave him and just let him be with them.
Hi, welcome to Interview Day. I have been looking forward to sharing this conversation with you because whether or not you have children, you were a child at one time, and there's so much gold to mine in this episode. Shalini Josen is the founder of Shifting with Shalini and certified in coaching techniques from Dr. Shefali Tsabary, Dr. Gabor Mate, and Suzi Lula's spiritual psychology. She is a lifelong seeker of wisdom and knowledge, has interviewed many experts in the wellness industry, and continues to discover the most current and up-to-date findings for coaches and healers. Shalini has a BA in entrepreneurship and her MBA in marketing. She enjoys yoga, reading, and brisk walks on most days, where she walks the talk. You can check her out on her IG page to see what that means. And she says that becoming a mother is the role that ultimately changed the trajectory of her life, and she wouldn't have it any other way. We dove deep into her work of guiding people to transform their relationship with themselves and their children, from disconnection to great connection. She believes this shift requires a new perspective and a way of engaging, a path of self-awakening and consciousness. Get ready to connect. Enjoy. Hi, Shalini. It is so good to see you and to actually meet up live. I hope you've had a wonderful summer, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with our listeners.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for having me. And I'm so happy to see you too, even on Zoom. Love it.
Love it. I love Zoom so much. I know a lot of people have some Zoom challenges. It's too much. For me, it's been a beautiful connector, and it's been beautiful moving in similar circles with you for the past few years. And this conversation all began when I listened in on your two-part series on Instagram Live entitled Moms and Sons, Creating Healthy Sons with Eric Close and Suzi Lula. And like you, I dug into what boys really need. That was really, really important. And it prompted me to reach out and invite you onto the show because I believe more of us need to be in this conscious parenting conversation. So what I would love to start with is please share where this all began and how conscious parenting has guided you in raising your family and also guiding and leading yourself.
Thank you. That is so beautiful. And you are like spot on with everything, by the way. So I forgot that we connected because of creating healthy sons.
Yeah.
And that just leads us right into my why. I have two boys. They are 15 and a half and 17 today. When I began this, my younger one, I think he was about 7 or 8 years old. And I was a stay-at-home mom. So I felt like this was my full-time job, full-time responsibility. And I had no distractions. I didn't have to worry about things. And I was 24/7. And if there was 26 hours in a day, I would be 26/7. And I recently shared that I really wanted to, it's become so obvious to me. I was really like zombie-like and just moving through my day-to-days when my kids were younger. And they weren't sleeping so well. I never asked for help. I just didn't. I just felt it was 1000% my responsibility and my job. And I wanted it that way, actually, quite frankly. I think deep down now, I wanted it that way. So when my kids were younger, my youngest son, I started to have some parenting issues. It was really just no to everything, but it was no to, and it was just no all the time. It was all day, everywhere. It was school, it was showers, it was brushing your teeth. So pretty common, but it was no to even choices that I would give him. And it was just becoming an everyday battle. But what started happening was I noticed that I was waking up and I literally was like, oh my God, what is going to happen today? And I would tiptoe around him and walk on eggshells around him. And he was like freaking 8 years old or 7, and I'm still bigger than him. Both my boys are bigger than me now. They're both almost like, one's probably 6 foot, one's just like around under 6 feet. So they're big boys. And so at the time, I couldn't understand what was going on. I was, giving timeouts. I had my sticker charts. I gave really all my time to my kids and tried to balance it. Another thing I noticed was, wow, what is my older son watching me do with my younger one? There was, started to get a little worried. What was he seeing? There was a lot of frustration then in the marriage too, because I was exhausted. I was frustrated. I actually was feeling angry, rageful, disappointed in myself. Like, hey, what's up? You have nothing else going on in your freaking life and you can't do this. And it lasted probably a year, a solid year from what I can remember now. And it just got harder and sadder, made me, really sad and really hard on myself, because I really believed that I had no distractions. I had no other obligations. And why couldn't I make this work? And I say this on my website, and I say it a little differently today than I used to. But back at that time, I said, what if it's not him? What if it's me? What if something is going on in me inside? And what if I just take a look at that? What if I can do something different? I'm following all the parenting guidelines, like I said, the reward charts, checking off a list of everything that had to be done at nighttime, all the things we do, right?
So
Brush your teeth, all of those things. And, giving them their check marks and rewarding them. But it wasn't working. And then I had the timeouts for the times that it didn't work, right? So I was doing this game. I was playing in this game, but it wasn't working. And I was getting more and more miserable. I was getting more and more concerned about my older son. I was feeling like a terrible person. And it was really disrupting my marriage. We were just completely on different pages. And he would just be worse than me at some point, because he would see how frustrated and angry I would become. And I just decided one day to look at myself. And that began my journey into what now is really called, conscious parenting. It was kind of my foot in the door for, you could say, conscious parenting, you can say collaborative parenting, gentle parenting, but really at the crux, what is it? What is it? That's the big question.
Yeah.
That's the confusing question for everybody.
And so then what did you do? Like, as you were looking inward, what were the breadcrumbs that led you into what now you see were breadcrumbs leading you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got a book, and eventually I was certified by Dr. Shefali in the Conscious Coaching Institute. So I started with her book, and there are some myths in the book. I believe there's 7 of them. And I started to resonate with them. I started to go, wow, why did I have children?
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is on the surface. Oh, I love kids. Oh, I'm a mom. Oh, it's the thing to do. And, and as I started to get a little deeper and a little more honest, just a little, not a lot honesty yet, just a little honest.
That would be too scary.
Yeah, that would be too scary right away. That would be too scary. Now is a different story. Now when I share, it's pretty vulnerable and honest.
Yeah.
Today. But back then it was more of a little whispering honesty to myself. Why did I have kids? What was I trying to do here? What was I so worried about when I was at the grocery store when my kids were tantruming, or asking for the 10 sugar cereal boxes and granola bars and candy when I would go down the aisles, or maybe throwing a fit in the middle of Target because I wouldn't buy them the car again.
Mhm.
And I just started to understand that there was something going on with me that was leading me to, well, initially behave the way I was behaving. And really, at the end of the day, that there was something even deeper than that, that I was feeling certain things and thinking certain things that were just leading to my behaviors of control, really, at the end of the day, to control the uncomfortableness that I was experiencing when my kid wasn't listening to me. Like you heard me say it. I have nothing else going on. Why can't I make this work?
Mhm.
You know, that was a thought, a habitual inner dialogue that was in my mind that I didn't even know was there. And
Where do
it
you
was,
think that came from?
oh gosh. Well, today I would say, and I'm very aware of this now. In conscious parenting, we talk about the first very crucial, important years of our children's lives. So remember, I too was a child at one point. I was a zero, newborn to 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20-year old person before. And what I have learned is that that inner dialogue wasn't mine.
Mm.
It wasn't mine. It had been imprinted, implanted, brainwashed, conditioned into me about my worthiness, essentially. This is a few years into my journey of conscious parenting. This was not immediate. The immediate was, why was I acting this way? Why
We're
was I acting?
curious.
Yes. Why? But yes, the curiosity of why. Why can't I stop? There were times when I was doing things that I knew I needed to stop. I couldn't even stop myself. So I sometimes thought I was watching a movie of myself. I was like, oh my God, who is this crazy mom right now? She's freaking out.
Oh, no.
Really, I mean, there's a couple incidences that come up, like showering was such a problem. I mean, so ridiculous. My kids shower at midnight now on their own because they want to. What was I doing when he was 8 years old? He's fine. But I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I was under this. I am the rule setter. I am the controller. I got nothing else going on. Why can't I do this? Really, there was a thought, a question that always was going through my mind, like, what's wrong with you? Why
Mm.
can't you do this? So it led me to little breadcrumbs of looking at myself, you know? So I learned about one of the first things it's not one of the first things anymore, but at that time, it was like pausing when I noticed, if I had the ability to notice how I was acting, and I learned to teach myself to pause. We all know count to 10, right? But what are you doing when you're counting to 10? What are you doing in that pause? That takes a little time to understand,
Mhm.
right? It takes a little time to understand. I'm here to breathe. I'm here to make a different choice. And I'm here to understand myself. And I'm here. One of my favorite things to do, I started in 2021, were conscious check ins. I'm here to connect back to myself and my body, to the fists, the hands that are in a fist like shape because I'm angry, to the rapid heart rate that I was feeling, that I was noticing, but I wasn't noticing at the time, to, I don't even know, rapid heart rate. I think I used to get like, now I notice too much. I went from one end to the other, but I noticed a lot, the uncomfortableness in my body, right? Um, Prior to the behaviors that I might have done. So, what are you doing during that pause? You're learning about yourself. You're getting curious, like you said, you're getting curious about yourself. You're trying to, that what you were doing, the behavior that you were, the yelling, the screaming, whatever it may look like, um, is not what you want to do anymore, right? It's not working. First of all, I spent a year realizing it's not working. So now what? I don't know what. I don't know yet what I want to do, but I knew that I didn't want to continue that way. That was not working in my home. So that was key. I didn't know what to do yet, but I knew that I couldn't do that anymore. So in that pause, and what I started guiding myself through was, what am I going through? And it really started with reading Dr. Shefali's books, The Awakened Family. What is it? The Awakened Family, The Conscious Parent, and the other one I have behind me, Out of Control, Why Discipline Doesn't Work. And, I got all three of her books, and I just started to dig into myself. I started to look at my own patterns. And when I went deeper and I went through the Conscious Coaching Institute and became a conscious parenting coach myself, now we get to the crux of what conscious parenting is.
And there's something so incredible about, like you were saying, I just really want people to ponder what you were saying about being in the pause when you're counting to 10, what is really happening. It's something I love to guide women into all the time, is like, take a beat, breathe, feel into, how am I right now? What do I really need? And if you need to, like, when it becomes a habit that you can do this, like you say, which has really been a lifesaver for you, when you can be lying in bed with an agenda ahead of you first thing in the morning, but the first thing you say to yourself is, how am I feeling today, right now? Do I need to go on that 5K run? Do I need to go swimming? Do I need to rush out the door? Or do I need 15 more minutes of just rest instead? Do I need to reschedule something? I know this can sound like a luxury, but let's face it, like a lot of people, even if you're out early in the morning, there's rituals that we go through, right? So we can switch them around if need be to really go slower when we need that time. But we only know that when we stop and tune into ourselves. So I love that you've made that a practice, and that's like the foundation.
It's the foundation. And you heard me earlier saying I was available to my kids 26 hours out of the day. So what did I need?
No wonder you were angry. You needed just to be alone.
I didn't know what I needed, and I talk about that so much more now because, we think it's like I need the mani and the petty and the lunch and the wine at evening time, or, no, but what I had to spend some time relearning about myself. So I say I had to notice that I wanted to unlearn the behavior that I was doing. So there was an unlearning process. Mm-hmm. In that unlearning, I actually had to relearn about myself. I had to relearn. I didn't know what I needed. You want to talk about somebody who has no boundaries? How do you set a boundary? From what you need. So how could I set a boundary when I didn't know what I really needed? And I also shared, I never asked because I didn't know what to ask for. So all of these things that I know today, and where I help my clients when they're ready, right? When you're ready to go this route, it's very, very challenging when the kids are young. And it was for me. And I have a lot of compassion for that because my kids didn't sleep till my older one didn't sleep till he was like almost 6.5, 7 years old, wow. Through the night, I should say.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And yeah. I love what you're saying, like pausing and slowing down really works when we know why we're doing it. Otherwise we can feel like, what am I doing? I got to go. Society, culture, run, go, do more, run from one activity to the other activity. If your kid is not busy till 6:00 at night, what kind of parent are you? So to slow down comes from, what do I need? And, I'm going to address this in a minute, but to meet the needs of our children, which is really a very big part of parenting. And I'm going to go into that from 0 to 7 years old. It is the crux of the livelihood of the child, of the human that, we chose to bring into this world. And that is going to create some patterning in the child. Okay. That's going to show up. I think we can almost say, like, it's a guarantee. It's going to show up in adulthood in some way or another. That to be able to meet their needs, I have to also meet my own needs, which might be to slow down, which might be to ask for help, which might be to learn how to take a deep breath, which might be 10 minutes, which is one of my favorite things. I do it a few times a day sometimes, but of my silent meditations. there's many things that I have made very important in my life today that I didn't have back then, but I didn't know about them. What did I know? Get the sticker chart out, get the timeouts. Let's do timeouts. He's out of control. Let's control him more. And let me remove myself and my love for my child. Let me take it away from him because I can't control him. He's not listening to me. Let me remove something that my child probably needs right now the most because I didn't know. I had no clue.
That is basically the pattern that has been taught and modeled for us for so many generations that it's just like, it seems to come naturally. And I have a lot of gratitude from my parents because I feel like they kind of broke that mold and they took the space, they took the time. Now, that said, my mother did overfunction and put everyone ahead of herself. Like I did see her giving to herself in many different ways, like nature, gardening, things she enjoyed, her women's group. So she did do that. I saw her modeling that. However, I did also see the areas where martyrdom would creep in. And again, it's because of what she was taught, right? But I'm grateful overall because I feel like it informed on my parenting style. And then fortunately, my husband was influenced by that as well and loves how that has been the case. But modeling what we are taught by our parents and by the people who raised us, whoever that may be, it's a totally natural thing. And so we don't typically question those things that happened in our earlier years because they're just the way it is. And you learn this is just the way we do things. Yeah. And it's control is often at the root of it. And one thing, starting my family later, I was, 10 years married before having my first child out of choice. My husband and I entered into it with a consciousness, I guess, of the type of home that we wanted to create. And one thought that I always remembered reverberating in my mind was, I don't want to lose myself in motherhood. And it's interesting. And I guess it must have been what I had seen modeled for me that I thought I know that I really could, because man, these little people are so sweet and they're just, I could watch them all day and they just fill me up so much and it's so beautiful. But I was always conscious of that. And that guided how I would guide them and lead them into, hey, you need your time. I'm going to have my time, to the point where my oldest would be, I'd be like, hey, honey, what are you doing? And he'd be like, mom, I'm just doing something. Can you go do your thing. He would actually say, he's like 3, you go do your thing. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So he was very comfortable with that. Then we'd come back together. But it was that I didn't intentionally say, oh, I'm going to model this, but it's just kind of came together that way,
It's what you saw, right, in your own home.
Yeah, like having that space. And so as you moved through this, like, what would you say the next phase was once you had that awareness? And like, did you have a sit down with yourself or many sit downs with yourself and say, wow, it's okay, and like forgiving yourself? And then what did that look like when you were relating the shift that you were making to your kids? Did you just shift, or did you tell them what you were experiencing?
No, I don't think I told them. I just started shifting. Mm-hmm. Today, I have different conversations with them because of their developmentally ready for those conversations.
Yeah.
There's still, there's still repair that I do on a very regular basis with my teenagers. I can still be triggered by things. That doesn't go away. Yeah. And I still could, at 6:45 in the morning, I'm like, you guys are leaving in 5 minutes and you guys don't have clothes on. Like, what's up? And I could still be like, how many times do I have to tell them to have their stuff out last night? I've been telling them for 5 years. Right. And I just remind myself there are certain parts of conscious parenting, which is conscious parenting is a blend of spirituality and Western psychology. So there's a blend. There are certain parts of conscious parenting that I live by in my life, which led you to what you said in the beginning, how I live my life, period. It's my conscious living.
Mhm.
Then when it comes to the parenting part, when I started shifting and making these changes, it was more on the external level, which is what somebody would see, was maybe some breath work. And what would really happen, now that I'm really thinking about it, thank you for this question, you're taking me way back, is I would go and I would was teaching myself how to sit in the discomfort that my child was feeling.
Yeah.
And usually that discomfort looked like he was angry. Get out, don't touch me, don't talk to me. It was pushing me away. And I started to teach myself that he's going through something. And I shifted from timeouts to time ins, right? That's something that he was 8, 9, 10. And it was kind of, the conscious choice is not to leave him with his emotions, is to let him know that even with these bigger, more challenging emotions that he was expressing to me or showing me in a way, I wasn't going to abandon him. I wasn't going to leave him and just let him be with them. And there were times where maybe I would try to talk to him, and that didn't work. So maybe it was just me sitting there. I had to do a lot of trial and error, especially during those initial younger ages, of what worked. And at the end of the day, I don't really know what worked. It was me managing my emotions. And that's the biggest part of conscious parenting, managing my emotions, regulating my emotions, which is the crux of what conscious parenting is, especially when you go into coaching, right? Is learning what's actually going on with me. I had to really start to go through different layers of myself, from my behaviors to my feelings to my thoughts, and down, wow, Sheila, all the way down to beliefs about myself. I had to go there. But in the initial phases of me just making these baby step changes was shifting from timeouts to time ins, sitting with my kid, allowing my kid to feel uncomfortable, and me being able to help myself, help him hold space and allow. Sometimes it was, there's times I remember, sometimes it wasn't me even going, he wouldn't let me in the room. I would have to be outside of his room, and I would let him know I didn't leave you. Oh, it makes me emotional because I'm actually kind of remembering that now. I probably haven't remembered or spoken about that in a while. And it's just letting him know you're allowed to feel the way you are. And it's still language that I use. You're allowed to feel that.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel angry towards me. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it, And so it was a progression. It was, but I think I remember intentionally, there was a time where my son didn't want to go to school, and I'd already been dealing with this the year before. And he woke up, and I think he was elementary school still. And he didn't want to go. And when it happened before I began this journey, it was like, get up. I'm going to drag you to school. You're not staying here because you're going to ruin my day. What about me? I have no break from you, but I was already struggling, right? So when he did this and I had started on the path, I said, all right, listen, Shalini, what would happen if he doesn't go right now? All right, your day would change. And you know what I did with him, Sheila? I took him, we had breakfast together, and I called the school and I said, listen, I'm just having some difficulty at home. I'd actually already been speaking to the child psychologist there.
Oh, great.
And I'd already, because of what had been happening for over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we're having some issues at home. Do you need us to come? And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I'm just letting you know he's not coming to school right now. And we had breakfast. And I asked him if he'd like to go for a walk with me. And we walked in our neighborhood, and again, emotional. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Because it's just this feeling I'm getting. It was laughter. It was joking around. It was being available and present. Sorry. Oh my God. I'm going to take a second here.
Oh, more of this. We need to
Sorry.
be able to never apologize for the tears,
Woo!
especially for something like this that is so shifting, that is so, I think so many people can relate to this. And it's just so wonderful the work that you're doing. And by the way, I
Woo!
love Dr. Shefali's work. I just,
Yes.
I'm so grateful she has the Institute and is helping people like yourself and so many others dive in, because if it's happened for you and if there's an institute, it's happening for a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
You give so much hope, because I saw the
Oh.
pictures recently on Instagram of you
Oh.
laughing and holding your big, tall teenagers. And it's just like,
Did you see that?
yes, so good.
So, to go just to continue on that, we were walking in our neighborhood, laughing, talking, and I told myself, I'm just going to be here. And we were kind of halfway through, and I'm like, "Are you ready to go back?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "How do you feel about, going to school?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm ready now."
Amazing.
And I drove him to school, and he just literally waved goodbye, and went to school. And I don't know what grade he was in, third, fourth grade, maybe something like that. And yeah. And I was like, wow, he just needed me to show up for him.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of started to show me different places that I needed to give myself some grace, give him some grace, um, and not be on this kind of hamster wheel
Ah,
that I was on.
yeah.
And from there, there were just smaller shifts of, I think what you said earlier, slowing down, right? That was a slowdown. Like maybe that day I don't remember, but maybe I was like, oh, what were you talking about? I can't go to the gym. What? I can't go to my strength training or my spin class. Maybe something like that was going on.
Mhm.
Get the kids out so I can live my life for the next 4 or 5 hours, right? But in that pausing and slowing down and just choosing to show up for him, literally what I was doing was just shifting this kind of relationship. It was very connection oriented. It was very showing up. When I showed up for myself in my inner dialogue of like, it's okay, I was able to show up for him.
Well, it's so incredible to see that even just that time where you went out for that walk, that is, and something about nature, even just getting
Yes.
outside, it really does shift everything. That is maybe one example of how you can help and teach people to regulate their children's emotions. What I'm really hearing, when there is safety, there is receptivity.
Okay.
And in that receptivity is when all the good stuff can come. And then when there's hard stuff, there's space for it and there's grace for it. But it all starts with that feeling of safety. Oh, so beautiful. So
Yeah.
before we go, I have just like two little questions. And one of
Okay.
them is, you mentioned exactly what I think is a large part of the issue, and that is the busy lives that people
Mm.
face. And I have a lot of compassion for the indie moms and dads who are juggling, and for the various combinations of types of families that there are, and socioeconomic things as well. So what are some simple ways that parents can integrate some of these principles that you teach without getting overburdened or feeling overwhelmed? Where's a good place to start?
At the end of the day, conscious parenting is reparenting. I would every hour. Now, my clients don't have to do this. Not everybody has the ability to do this, but I would pause and I would check in with my body. I didn't really know what I was looking for. I really didn't know. But what I started to learn again was how I clenched my legs, how my jaw felt tight. And I would start to check in with my breath. What did it feel like? And I started to connect back to my body. And I think the holistic psychologist says it really well, and many now are saying it. Our bodies are always communicating with us. So I spent 2021 reconnecting to my body. Again, I didn't know what I was looking for. So what I usually offer my clients is every couple of hours, every few hours, it is 15 to 20 seconds. Pause, take a breath. First, you can notice how you're already breathing. You can do a body scan. You can just, maybe you have a go-to. My jaw's always tight. My shoulders are always tight. So do a few rolls. If you've been sitting for 3 hours, just stand up, right? Do get to know what your body is telling you. And I will say this, by April of that year, I remember having a heated discussion, and I noticed that I had checked in with my body during this discussion. And I remember going, oh my God, did I just check in with my body? Like, was that me? It became part of me. It became part of me to look at, like, oh my God, I'm feeling a little anxious right now. Right. And I told myself to take a deep breath. And the breathing is to, and this is again, a little deeper when you go into, like, we talk about the nervous system, right? But it's to inhale for on a count of 4. And if you can hold for a count of 2 or 3 or something like that. And your exhale is longer, 6, 7, or 8. So I just say the exhale should be a little longer. You're actually physiologically calming your nervous system down. And it works with our children. It works in our adult relationships. It works in coaching, because it doesn't mean that, I'm human. I'm having feelings in a coaching session. So if I notice them and I'm connecting back, I can enter my breath and I can go, maybe something I need to look at here. Right. And those are my 2 go-tos even today in my life. And I don't do them perfectly. I don't stop myself every hour anymore, because it's become a part of my new habit. It's become a new habit of mine. But I really think there's so much value in understanding that your body's communicating with you, and you can, a lot can come from that. And then you can also start teaching your child when you start to notice, and you kind of start on this path. Sometimes the communication is, oh my gosh, where in your body are you feeling this? Where are you feeling this? And if it's, and maybe we can put our hands on our heart for a second and just breathe and just connect. So these are my 2 favorite tools. There's many others, but I believe that they can be done by everybody. And I think there's so much value in learning. And it gets deeper when you go into coaching, especially group coaching or one-on-one. And when you're ready for a deeper dive to understand what is projection, because then you start to learn that what you do, what you say, how you act isn't really about the other. It's about you. It's about you. And you start to learn these things about yourself as you go a little deeper and you go a little bit, get underneath the next layer. But these are 2 beautiful layers that I like to remind. I usually give a chart to clients on understanding, like, behaviors. It's actually on my Instagram page. Yelling, shutting down, slamming doors, whatever the kid is doing, really possibly what's underneath that. And for little kids, as they're growing, they just want to know that their voice matters and they have a say in their life. And so that's always there. And, you can, have that for your viewers. I always send that out for my clients to kind of keep that in their mindset. And you know what? When I started my journey, it was literally on my desk. It was like, oh, no, that behavior is not personal. Sheila, I can't hear you.
Hi.
Yeah.
I was muted.
So
yeah. Having those reminders for ourselves is so incredible, because then we can sink in, have the practice that we do routinely over and over. And we have the reminder, because we do so easily sink into old patterns that feel comfortable. but it is possible to create these new ones. And I think
Yeah.
it's really incredible to see how then that influences people in our midst. It influences how our kids will then grow up to communicate with others as well. This has been a very
Yeah.
insightful conversation. And I'd love to hear that whole story because I think a lot of people will be able to pick out pieces of your story that are so similar to what they've experienced and that you have hope that things can turn around.
Yeah.
It's the awareness.
It's the
So,
awareness.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Sheila, thank you for having me. I have so much. I love, this is my passion. And I'd just like to tie in with what you said. Was recently certified through a spiritual psychology course as a soul care coach as well. I'm also a trauma informed or trauma aware coach. I went through Dr. Gabor Mate's program as well.
Great.
Yeah. So he just wrote a book, so it's coming out. Also, I'm seeing him tomorrow. Actually, I'm seeing him at a talk in New York City tomorrow.
He's
But
amazing.
amazing. And he talks about this. He talks about the younger years of your life and what they, how they look as you grow, as you're older. But, I do want to say, I think there is hope. When you're ready to step by step, it's a process. You might be ready for certain parts of it. And then you need to integrate that in your life. That's why it's like kind of even piecing together my story is trying. There was something of a learning, and then there was an integration process before I was even ready to go to the next layer. It was integrate, and integration is practice. Practice that might work with one kid, didn't work with another. So there's a level of that too. And then I was ready for another layer. And then there was some integration that happened at that point. And then it's piece by piece as you're ready. And there's no rush. We're probably going to do this forever. So there's no rush. And when you think you're all good with your kids, time to work on the partner, time to work on that relationship. And then it might be on you and your parents, that relationship. So it's a beautiful, challenging, hopeful, and I use that word hope so lightly because I'm not a huge fan of it. I just believe that if you are intentional and curious and willing, and compassionate with yourself, you can go through each of the layers. And then slowly, you notice these transformations in your relationship. And really, at the end of the day, the transformation is within yourself, Sheila. So my relationships will look like what they look like. But I know that the feeling and the inner dialogue that I have, the transformation is occurring inside of me.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, that's the beautiful, amazing part. And I look forward to whatever is coming in the future as far as more learning and more unlearning and more transforming. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me today, Shalini. I feel so hopeful.
Yes.
And I just feel really grounded when we talk as well.
Yes, me too. I really enjoy our conversation. So thank you so much for letting me share my journey with you. It's what I wholeheartedly believe in, but it's more than that. It's a knowing. It's really a deeper knowing that the path is there if we're willing and ready in our journey while we're here on Earth School to take it. So thank you so much.
Now, beautiful listener, I am so grateful that you tuned in. Shalini and I would love to hear what came through for you the most in this conversation. We hit on many different points, and I just would love it if you would let us know by sending us a DM or tagging us on social. You'll find all of the ways to reach us in the show notes. It really helps this message have a greater reach so that we can make a positive impact on so many other individuals and families and children. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Big blessings.